Hi, in this video today I'm going to show you how you can create your own cross-stitch patterns using fonts and alphabets. You really are spoiled for choice. There are so many available now. So whether you're looking to do something using a nice plain font or perhaps something a little more decorative and fancy, the principles are the same. This is a really simple technique. I was shown this years ago when I was very young, and I used it for a long time before I invested in some fancy software that does a lot of it for me. However, I do still use this now and then, and I think it's a good thing a good skill to have. So of course you are going to need a font pattern. So whether it's one that you've bought off me, you've had free, I do send them out sometimes to subscribers, or maybe you've purchased one from a seller on Etsy. Obviously you're going to need that, and the other thing you're going to need is some graph paper. I actually provide a PDF copy of this for people to print off at home along with my font patterns, and I think quite a lot of designers tend to do that as well. Otherwise it's quite easy to find in stationery shops, and you can also get it easily as a PDF on the internet and just download it and print it off yourself at home. So as well as those things, you will need a pencil, a ruler. Take it from me, you'll definitely need an eraser, some scissors, and some paper glue. So once you've got all the bits and pieces that you need to decide what it is you want to, what phrase or saying, word, whatever it is that you want to stitch. Just because I'm not feeling very imaginative, I'm just going to put melody is amazing. Nice and simple, to the point, you know. So what I will say before we carry on is, you may have noticed on this graph paper, it's I've actually done it so that each thing is 14 stitches, because I tend to use 14 count, and that's the advantage over using normal graph paper that you would find that would probably have those heavier lines every 10 squares. So, and then I know as well that 14 squares is an inch, and then when I've actually written it out and I've laid it, it's a lot easier for me to work out how big the piece of fabric I will need is going to be. Does that make sense? Possibly not. I hope so. So as I say on Boo Peter, here's one I made earlier. If you're not from the UK, that reference is wasted on you probably, so I do apologise. Okay, so now you may decide that that's exactly just how you want your pattern to look, so there is no reason to cut it all out and move things around. However, especially if you're going to do something that was a lot more wordy, you know, you might find that it's over a few lines. So what we're going to do, so I'm just going to use this as an example anyway. Let me just put my glasses on, might help. Okay, so being careful not to cut the bottom of any of these letters off, we're just going to and even if you do decide that that's just how you want it to look, you can also now from this work out the size of the piece of fabric you're going to need. So it's going to need to be at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. Obviously then you want to account for a border or anything around it. I might actually use that to make myself a bookmark. So we just want to cut this out. I'm just going to do like 2 squares either side of each word, like that. Okay, so we've got our words here, and say for example the design I want to create, I just want the words in the middle with a central justificate, you know, just in the middle like that, and then I'm going to have some things around it. So what I would have to do is work out where the center of my fabric is going to be. So if this did actually represent the size of the piece of fabric, obviously I'm just going to do this. So that's going to be, it's going to be, you can ignore that because I've cut some of it off. It's going to be, there's my center. So to show you what I mean about lining it up, so now what I can do using that as my central line is I can figure out exactly how I want it to look. So you can either count the squares for each word and figure out exactly where the center point is. An easy way of doing that, I find, is to fold it in half if you can't be bothered and your eyes aren't what they once were. So that's going to go there. So if that's the center, I would probably put that letter, that word, sorry, right in the middle there. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't even count now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 5 either side of that. And then there's the center line there. So it's going to be about there. And obviously, as you can see, that's moving around quite a lot. So once I've decided where my center piece is, then I can put that, oh, it's not quite. Now I'm just going to do this by eye, which, to be honest, I wouldn't do because I'm a fussy bugger. But that gives you an idea. So whether you want the words really spaced out, or if you want them either side, you may decide that you want them at the top of your piece. But what you need to, one other thing you need to be mindful of is the spaces, the number of spaces that you leave between the words. So this one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, but you may decide that you want it more spread out, and this just helps you to get it a bit more even. So there's my midway point on there. What you need to make sure as well is that you leave the same amount of spaces between each line, and that you allow for, say for instance I was to put that quite low and then later on there was a letter that had, like for instance an L that came above those, I need to make sure that there's enough space for letters that come below that line and then letters that come above. So does that make sense? So if for instance there were the next word I was going to put in had an L that was that tall, I need to make sure that I space that out enough so that it's not coming down and making it look cluttered and difficult to read. I really hope that makes sense. It's been one of those days and I've been putting off this video for ages. I've had about 3 goes at it and every time I just think, that's just rubbish. Even I can't understand what I mean. So I hope this helps, and I hope it inspires you to start creating some of your own patterns. Be sure to upload them and tag me on Instagram. I am on Facebook as well, but I do tend to be on Instagram more. So yeah, I hope that helps. Oh, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on social media.